Beloved, hear me today. When God opens your eyes this morning, He's not simply giving you another sunrise. He's offering you a divine reset, a fresh beginning, a chance to step into your purpose with clarity. He's giving you a moment to think with intention, to walk with confidence, and to rise above the old. Because your life is guided by the direction of your thoughts. And if God is going to elevate you, He must first renew your mind. Today, we are not asking for ordinary strength. We are asking for a supernatural cleansing, a washing of the mind, a purifying of every corner where fear, doubt, anxiety, and confusion have tried to settle. Because the battle is not around you, it is within you. Whoever controls your thoughts controls your journey. So today, declare boldly, Lord, wash my thoughts, renew my mind, align me with your divine will. When worry rises, when fear tries to whisper, when doubt comes knocking, your truth becomes my shield. Your word becomes my lens. Your presence becomes my covering. You don't have to be chained to yesterday's thinking. You don't have to repeat the cycles that held you back. You don't have to surrender to the lies the enemy planted in the shadows. Why? Because the creator of your mind is greater than every lie. He can transform your thoughts, strengthen your will, and restore your inner being. A renewed mind doesn't react in panic. It responds in wisdom. A renewed mind doesn't crumble under pressure. It stands firm in faith. A renewed mind doesn't bow to defeat. It sees victory before it arrives. A renewed mind doesn't settle for less. It embraces God's promise. Today, lift your heart and declare it. My mind is being renewed. My thoughts are being purified. My life is being aligned with God's purpose. A renewed mind doesn't crumble. It stands. A renewed mind doesn't accept defeat. It envisions victory before victory arrives. When God renews your mind, He transforms your perspective. And when your perspective changes, your path changes. When your path changes, your destiny shifts. You are not walking under the weight of yesterday. You are not chained to outdated mindsets. You are not held hostage by habits that no longer serve you. God is at work, cleansing, strengthening, lifting, preparing you for what your eyes have never seen and your ears have never heard. Lift your heart and boldly declare, Lord, wash my thoughts, purify my mind, remove what you did not plant, restore what has been lost, renew me from the inside out, because a renewed mind changes everything. Faith grows stronger, steps become bolder, spirit becomes anchored, vision becomes clearer, purpose becomes unstoppable. Listen closely. Your mind is the steering wheel of your life. What happens inside your mind determines the trajectory of your day, your decisions, your habits, your relationships, and ultimately your destiny. If your thoughts remain small, your life will remain small. If your thoughts remain fearful, your actions will remain limited. But the moment your mind shifts, everything shifts. Your momentum is birthed in your thinking. You can work hard, pray earnestly, and strive tirelessly. But if your mind resists God's alignment, you will keep hitting invisible barriers. The enemy doesn't need to steal your health, your opportunities, or your resources. He attacks your mind first. A slowed mind slows life. A distracted mind distracts your destiny. Here's the truth. Your life rises only as high as your thoughts allow. If you're thin, king doesn't expand. Your future won't stretch. If your thoughts remain defeated, your potential remains capped. Every breakthrough starts with a breakthrough in your mind. Every blessing requires a mindset strong enough to contain it. God opens doors, but if your mind is filled with doubt, fear, or insecurity, you will sabotage your own access. Seeds of thought determine your harvest. Doubt produces hesitation. Fear produces limitations. Faith produces courage. Truth produces strength. Be intentional. Guard what thoughts you water. Not every thought deserves life. Not every voice deserves access. Some memories must be released. Some lies must be replaced. Some thoughts must be silenced before they steal your momentum. Hook. You cannot rise beyond the level of the thoughts you consistently entertain. Your dream may be huge, but if your mind is stuck in old fears, old failures, old patterns, the dream will remain out of reach. You cannot embrace a new season with a defeated mindset. Your mind is powerful. Your thoughts are powerful. God gave you the ability to imagine, to solve problems, to create, to plan, and to visualize possibilities before they manifest. Everything in your life starts in your mind. But the enemy knows this too. He seeks to distract, overwhelm, and exhaust your thinking. Because if he controls your mind, he doesn't need to touch anything else. A discouraged mind produces a discouraged life. A distracted mind produces a divided life. A doubtful mind produces a delayed life. Hook. Thoughts you agree with shape the life you live. When God begins cleansing your mind, he accelerates your momentum, clears your path, and removes weights you didn't even know were slowing you down. Fear, guilt, regret, comparison, overthinking, bitterness. Once your mind aligns with truth, nothing can stop you. There are battles in your mind too heavy for human strength. Thoughts you've tried to control keep returning. Habits you've tried to break keep pressing on. Worries you've tried to silence keep echoing. You were never designed to fight mental warfare alone. You were created to depend on a power greater than yourself. What you cannot control, God can cleanse. Sometimes your thoughts feel like storms, loud, violent, relentless. You try peace, but anxiety interrupts. You try hope, but fear persists. You try moving forward, but old memories pull you backward. And just when it feels like you might lose the battle inside, God steps in, not with force, but with gentle authority. This is not your fight to win alone. When you surrender your mind to God, you're not giving up. You're giving him access to the hidden places, access to the thoughts you've never spoken, access to the burdens no one else knows, access to the pain you've buried but still feel. God sees beyond the surface. He sees the roots. He knows the wounds behind the worry, the memories behind the fear, the lies behind the insecurity, the trauma behind the anger. Where you see chaos, he sees cleansing. Where you see failure, he sees restoration. Where you see confusion, he sees renewal. Hook. You can manage your thoughts, but only God can purify them. Some thoughts the enemy planted years ago still linger. Thoughts that made you doubt your worth. Thoughts that shrank your identity. Thoughts that question your strength. Those thoughts did not come from God, and they do not belong in your future, but they remain because you tried to fix them with willpower instead of surrender. You tried to control them instead of releasing them. You tried to suppress them instead of exposing them to God's light. When God cleanses your mind, he doesn't just remove toxic thoughts. He replaces them with truth. He removes the lie and plants his promise. He removes fear and plants his peace. He removes shame and plants his grace. He removes confusion and plants clarity. God doesn't clean halfway. When he begins a work in your mind, he completes it. Burdens you've carried so long that you thought were normal, he removes them. Negative patterns you accepted as part of your personality, he breaks them. Years of doubt and fear, he transforms them. Hook. What has become normal is not natural for you. You were never meant to live with mental heaviness. You were created to live with spiritual clarity. When you say, God, cleanse my mind, you invite him to break cycles you couldn't break. You invite him to silence voices you couldn't silence. You invite him to uproot patterns you couldn't uproot. You invite him to do what your strength strategies, and discipline fail to do. Where your strength ends, God's cleansing begins. When God renews your mind, old patterns no longer hold power. You stop reacting from past pain. ND start responding with divine wisdom. Thoughts that once controlled your actions lose their grip. Habits that once trapped you crumble under the light of truth. Some people wonder why they keep repeating the same mistakes, why they fall into the same traps, why they attract the same pain. It's not because they are weak. It's because their mind has been shaped by survival, not transformation. You can change your environment, but if your thoughts remain the same, the old patterns will find you. Change begins in the battlefield of the mind. And the moment God renews your mind, cycles that seemed unbreakable are interrupted. He steps into your memories that shape fear. He steps into your wounds that shape behavior. He steps into the lies that shape identity. And through this, he rebuilds you from the inside out. Hook. A renewed mind doesn't just think differently, it lives differently. Old fears lose their authority. Old doubts lose their voice. Old limitations no longer define you. You begin to see yourself differently. You begin to speak differently. You begin to move differently. God doesn't just break old cycles, he replaces them with purpose. When your mind is renewed, the old you ceases to exist. Decisions come from strength, not fear. Belief comes from God's truth, not past pain. Habits align with destiny, not survival. A renewed mind gives you freedom, not because the old pattern disappeared, but because you no longer think the way the pattern demands. You've grown. You've shifted. You've matured. Hook. Once your mind rises, everything connected to it rises too. Every thought you entertain builds the future you'll live. Some thoughts build courage. Some thoughts build fear. Some thoughts build clarity. Some thoughts build confusion. Your life will always reflect the dominant thoughts you nurture. Think small, live small. Think defeated, walk defeated. Think fearful, act fearful. Think unworthy, settle for less. But when your mind aligns with God's truth, life begins to flow with purpose. Obstacles become doors. Challenges become opportunities. Limitations become launching pads. Hook. Protect your mind from every voice that contradicts your calling. Not every opinion deserves access to your spirit. Not every environment deserves influence over your thoughts. Not every memory deserves a place in your inner world. Some void, CS must be silenced. Some memories must be released. Some thoughts must be rejected the moment they appear. Hook, what you meditate on becomes the map your life follows. Meditate on problems, you walk in stress. Meditate on failure, you walk in hesitation. Meditate on God's promises, you walk in boldness. Meditate on purpose, you walk in direction. Your thoughts are not random. They are forces shaping your life's atmosphere. Whatever dominates your mind eventually becomes the environment of your future. Too often people live reactive lives. They allow circumstances, emotions, and opinions to dictate every response. They react with panic instead of prayer, speak in anger instead of faith, retreat in fear instead of stepping forward with courage. Why? Because they let feelings override understanding of God's truth. Hook, feelings are temporary, but truth is eternal. Imagine waking up every day guided solely by emotions. Some mornings confidence rises, other mornings defeat wins. Some days you see opportunity, other days you see obstacles. Some mornings you step boldly into purpose, other mornings fear paralyzes your movement. Life becomes unpredictable, unstuck, exhausting. That is what happens when emotions dominate your mind. But when your mind anchors in God's truth, a shift occurs. Even in storms, peace can remain. Even under pressure, clarity can hold. Even when the enemy whispers lies, confidence can stand firm. Truth becomes the lens through which you view every circumstance, memory, and thought. Hook. Truth doesn't bend to feelings, it transforms feelings. When you feed your mind with God's promises, your emotions align with reality. Fear loses its power when you recall God's faithfulness. Anger dissipates when you declare His goodness. Doubt retreats when you meditate on His sovereignty. You don't ignore emotions, you refuse to be ruled by them. Divine truth guides your responses, shapes your perspective, forms your decisions. Too many collapse under the weight of feelings. I feel overwhelmed, therefore I am defeated. I feel unworthy, therefore I have no purpose. I feel scared, therefore I must retreat. But truth says otherwise. Truth says your value is not determined by mood. Truth says your purpose is not determined by fear. Truth says God's plan continues even when feelings contradict it. Hook. Feelings fluctuate, but God's word never fails. Your mind gains stability through truth. Your steps gain direction. Your heart gains courage. When your mind chooses truth over emotion, perspective becomes unshakable. Peace becomes unmovable. Strength becomes unassailable. Your life reflects what dominates your mind. If feelings dominate, life is inconsistent, reactive, unstable. If truth dominates, life is confident, bold, and purposeful. Hook, let your mind be ruled by unchanging truth, not shifting emotion. Choosing truth over feelings changes responses. You stop panicking during trials. You stop doubting opportunities. You stop quitting under pressure. You act from faith, speak life, and walk boldly toward God's promise. Divine truth doesn't just correct thinking, it reshapes your entire emotional landscape. It teaches the heart what to believe, guides steps where to go, protects the spirit from chaos that unchecked emotions bring. Hook. Your mind experiences peace and clarity only when truth outweighs emotion. Transformation begins in the battlefield of the mind. Change begins internally before it manifests externally. Your thoughts are the launch pad for everything you will ever become. The tiniest mental decision can spark the biggest breakthrough. Many wait for external conditions to improve before they allow growth, but change begins now within your mind. Many walk through life unaware of the power in their thoughts. They let fear dictate decisions. They let doubt dictate actions. They let insecurity dictate their words. Hook, your mind is the battlefield where victory is first won. Every thought has potential. Every thought carries authority. Every thought is either a seed of breakthrough or a seed of limitation. You cannot rise beyond the level of your thinking. If your mind entertains fear, hesitation takes root. If your mind entertains doubt, indecision multiplies. If your mind entertains negativity, opportunity retreats. But when your thoughts align with God's promises, everything changes. Hook. Thoughts aligned with God are unstoppable forces. When you meditate on His word, fear loses its grip. When you declare His truth, lies cannot hold power. When you envision His promises, limitation cannot dominate. God gave you the ability to imagine, to plan, to problem solve, to dream before anything materializes. Every breakthrough begins in your mind. Every victory begins in your thoughts. Every destiny is first shaped by mental alignment. The enemy knows this truth. That's why he works relentlessly to pollute, distract, and exhaust your mind. He aims to steal your thoughts so he doesn't have to touch your reality. But when God renews your mind, He restores clarity, peace, and focus. Hook. A renewed mind sees beyond obstacles. Old fears lose their authority. Old failures lose their influence. Old patterns lose their grip. Suddenly, what once paralyzed you becomes fuel for progress. You begin seeing doors instead of walls, opportunities instead of threats, possibilities instead of limitations. Guard your mind with vigilance. Not every thought deserves attention. Not every voice deserves space. Not every memory deserves power. Hook. Protect your mind as you would your most precious possession. What you allow to remain in your mind today shapes your steps tomorrow. Feed it faith, peace, and purpose. Remove anxiety, comparison, and doubt. Plant courage, gratitude, and truth. Your mind is God's garden. Every seed you water grows. Every seed you ignore withers. Every seed you protect multiplies. Hook, your life will always follow your dominant thoughts. Think small, you live small. Think defeated, you walk defeated. Think fearful, you act fearful. Think unworthy, you settle for less than God intended. But when your mind embraces God's promises, your life rises. You stop being reactive. You start being intentional. You stop seeing problems. You start seeing possibilities. Hook, align your thoughts with God's truth and watch your destiny unfold. Old patterns have a way of repeating themselves because the mind remains unconsciously aligned with them. You can change your environment. You can change your friends. You can even change your circumstances. Hook. But until your mind changes, the cycle continues. You've carried yesterday's mindset into today's opportunities. You approach new doors with old fears. You step into new seasons with old expectations. Your progress is blocked, not by lack of effort, but by the old conditioning of your mind. When God renews you, our mind, He interrupts that cycle. He steps into the memories shaping your fears. He steps into the wounds shaping your behaviors. He steps into the lies shaping your identity. Hook, transformation begins internally, not externally. A renewed mind doesn't just inspire. It rebuilds. It reprograms. It redefines your entire way of responding to life. You stop reacting emotionally and start responding with divine wisdom. You stop panicking and start trusting. You stop replaying the past and start expecting the future. You stop clinging to fear and start holding on to faith. Old patterns break, not by force, but by transformation. Hook, God doesn't just remove old habits. He replaces them with purpose. Your decisions shift from fear to strength. Your beliefs shift from past limitations to divine possibility. Your habits shift from survival to destiny alignment. A renewed mind allows you to walk away from what used to trap you, not because the trap disappeared, but because you no longer think the way the trap needs you to think. You've grown. You've matured. You've shifted. Hook. When the mind rises, everything connected to it rises too. Every thought you entertain builds or destroys. Some thoughts grow courage, some thoughts grow fear. Some thoughts multiply confidence. Some thoughts multiply doubt. Your mind is the gatekeeper of your destiny. What you allow today will determine tomorrow. Feed your mind with truth. Water it with faith. Prune it of negativity. Hook. The life you desire is already waiting for your mind to be ready. You cannot walk into a new season with an old mind. You cannot experience a higher level with lower level thinking. You cannot speak victory while meditating on defeat. A renewed mind doesn't just think differently, it lives differently. It sees what's invisible. It achieves what seemed impossible. Hook, the breakthrough you seek, begins in the battlefield of your mind. Stop letting old patterns dictate your future. Stop letting yesterday's failures script today's reality. Stop letting fear and doubt determine your destiny. When your mind is renewed, you operate from strength, you act from purpose, you speak with authority, you move with confidence. Hook, God's power doesn't just change circumstances, it changes the way you see, think, and live. A renewed mind is not temporary. It is not a seasonal lift. It is a daily transformation that becomes the foundation of everything you do. Hook. True change is internal before it is external. When your mind is aligned with God's truth, you operate in a new reality. You walk differently. You speak differently. You respond differently. Old habits no longer control your actions. Old fears no longer dictate your decisions. Old doubts no longer cloud your vision. You begin to live in consistent victory, not because your challenges disappeared, not because your journey became easier, but because your mind was renewed and strengthened to overcome them. Hook. Victory is not about avoiding battles. It is about mastering the battlefield within. Every thought becomes a tool, not a trap. Every memory becomes a lesson, not a burden. Every circumstance becomes an opportunity, not a limitation. When you meditate on God's promises, fear loses its power. When you declare His faithfulness, doubt retreats. When you fix your mind on His goodness, confusion is replaced with clarity. Hook. Your mind is the compass of your life. The renewed mind sees doors where others see walls. It finds solutions where others see problems. It anticipates blessings where others expect setbacks. Old patterns of thinking no longer have authority over you. Hook. You are no longer defined by past limitations, but by future possibilities. Every step you take is infused with purpose. Every decision is rooted in truth. Every dream becomes aligned with God's plan for your life. Do not underestimate the power of a renewed mind. It determines your faith. It shapes your actions. It guides your destiny. Hook. Transformation is not about external change. It is about internal alignment. Live intentionally. Guard your thoughts. Feed your mind with truth. Reject anything that contradicts God's promises. When you do, your life will reflect victory, not struggle. Your steps will reflect clarity, not confusion. Your spirit will reflect strength, not weakness. Hook. You were designed to rise. You were designed to walk in purpose. You were designed to experience the fullness of God's blessings. Let today be the moment you commit to renewing your mind. Let today be the day you reject old patterns, release past fears, and embrace God's truth. Let today be the day you step fully into your destiny, guided by a mind that is cleansed, fortified, and aligned with heaven. Hook. A renewed mind doesn't just think differently. It lives differently. It wins, it perseveres, it rises, and it transforms everything it touches. They wait for the right timing, the right season, the right conditions. But God designed your mind to be the launch pad of breakthrough. Hook. Your inner world sets the stage for your outer life. Your circumstances will not transform until your thoughts transform. Your thoughts shape your decisions. Your decisions shape your actions. Your actions shape your destiny. If you continue to recycle old fears, replay past failures, and cling to limiting beliefs, you will keep living the same cycle you've always known. But the moment you choose to renew your mind, everything shifts. A renewed mind doesn't just imagine victory. It moves toward it. It doesn't just feel strong, it acts strong. It doesn't just hope, it aligns with purpose. Hook. The way you think today determines the victories you claim tomorrow. Every breakthrough begins with a single choice in the mind, a choice to rise above doubt, a choice to reject lies, a choice to see possibility instead of limitation. Every giant leap begins with a small shift in perspective. When you think differently, you break cycles of defeat. You stop reacting to old patterns. You stop repeating old mistakes. You refuse to be defined by fear, failure, or insecurity. Hook. True transformation is intentional. It begins with a decision. Your mind is the battlefield where victories are won before they ever appear in your life. Feed it with fear and negativity, and stagnation follows. Feed it with truth, faith, and purpose. and momentum begins. Every thought you allow, every belief you embrace, every perspective you choose sets the trajectory of your life. Hope alone will not bring change. Prayer alone will not produce breakthrough. Hook transformation requires conscious action in your thinking. You must reject old mindsets and embrace God-centered, truth-filled thoughts. Once your mind decides to think differently, a chain reaction starts. Your actions change, your habits change, your character strengthens, your opportunities unfold. Your mind is the engine of your destiny. Fuel it with truth, and it will carry you toward victory. The power to change is not in waiting for circumstances to align. It is in the choices you make today in the quiet chambers of your mind. It is in your determination to control what you think about, to declare what will take root in your spirit, and to refuse to return to old destructive patterns. Hook. A renewed mind leads to a renewed life. The moment your mind chooses differently, everything else begins to follow. Your behaviors change, your habits change, your relationships change, your opportunities align. The life you've imagined begins to materialize because your mind prepared the way. Every new life begins with a renewed mind. Every renewed mind begins with a single deliberate choice to think differently, believe differently, and act differently. Hook. Victory is not in circumstance. Victory is in your mind. Choose today to plant seeds of faith. Choose to meditate on truth. Choose to reject every lie that has held you captive. Because the thoughts you cultivate now will determine the life you live tomorrow. Step into that mindset, and God will align your path, open doors, and release blessings you've never imagined.